Speaking of people videotaping things that they shouldn't to go viral, this happened yesterday. Someone uploaded this video, and I want to watch it with you, Dan and Stugotz, because I don't think you've seen it yet.
It's a strange video.
I want you to tell me if you notice anything especially weird about this video.
Car flipped upside down.
And that's weird in itself.
A door open with a car upside down.
Looks like a watermelon of some sort.
It's also weird.
A watermelon in the sunroof.
Hey, dude, what are you doing? Yeah,
There's some
this guy just
videotaping.
pulled out a watermelon from his car. He thought it was fantastic.
Is that Scott Hanson?
That is Scott Hanson. I feel like I'm being punked.
Hanson.
This is one of the weirder videos in the history of the internet.
Okay, so if you're listening to this on the podcast, there is a first person videotaping themselves at the scene of a car crash, reaching into a car with the door open, upside down. The car's upside down. He reaches into the car. There's a watermelon.
And you grab it because of course.
This person grabs the watermelon, half of a watermelon, carries it out of the car, and then he pans over to Scott Hanson,
who's getting his
who
Jeff
is
Darlington
videotaping the car upside down, the accident, and he says, "What are you doing?"
In an accusatory way, almost like, are you affecting a crime scene right here? Like he was almost getting his he was almost going to make a citizen's arrest.
Exactly. So this video was circulating online, and then Scott Hanson actually tweeted a reply to it because someone said, "Is that Scott Hanson?" Because really, I mean, it's dark, but the voice is unmistakable. The voice is unmistakable, and he said that apparently there was a car crash. The people in the cars were okay. He checked, but then he saw this person reaching inside the car to get the watermelon and started videotaping him in case it was a crime to take a watermelon out of a crashed car.
All right. It is delightful for a number of different reasons, but you're suggesting that in that situation, Scott Hanson was video vigilante, that he is protecting America's streets from stolen watermelon situations when your car has flipped over.
What I learned in this video is the value of a good watermelon, because this is a very serious thing. What? But until I see the watermelon, like, it's a flipped car, it's a camera, like there could be someone dead in there. I see the watermelon, I'm instantly happy. I'm like, I smile, I giggle. Like, if that video is exactly the same thing, but there's no watermelon, this is a very serious, sad video.
That's a carved out
if there's
watermelon.
a dead body instead of a watermelon, it's a worse video.
You put cut up fruit in that watermelon. It's delightful. It's melon. It's cut up watermelon. You hollow out the watermelon. That's what that is.
Oh, I love a melon baller.
It's like just a half cut watermelon.
This is what Scott Hanson tweeted, by the way. He said, "Yes, I'm fine. I was a witness. I wasn't in either car. Terrible crash. I checked on the survivors and then saw that jack wagon trying to exploit the situation for his social media. I suppose I shouldn't be surprised, but I was/am disheartening."
Same thing.
What's Scott doing?
Well, he's being disappointed in behavior.
He said 2 people could have died, and that clown was excited about his TikTok. I couldn't believe it. You know his name/identity? He jetted when the police were pulling up. I videoed him in case what he was doing was illegal, parentheses, tampering with the scene of a crime, ? So disappointing.
Don't worry about that, Scott. How about that?
Seriously, stay in your lane.
Mind your own business.
Right. Tell me when a team's in the red zone.
What if Scott wanted the melon and that's why he's really upset?
Jesus.
Eyeing that melon from a mile away.
How did this guy know there was a watermelon in the car? That's the other thing. He
There's a
just
lot.
reaches in and grabs a watermelon. This is one of those things where, you know how people think that like we're all living in a simulation? This is an example of we are in a simulation and we're running out of characters. The people running the simulation have run out of extras, so they just dropped Scott Hanson into this video.
It's interesting to see the division in the room, though, because I feel like you and me, and I don't know where Lucy and Chris stand on this, but we're looking at Scott Hanson and saying, good for you. But Billy and Tony aligned again on narc.
Falsehoods.
Yeah.
Mind your
It's a
business.
little pot kettle situation, you know what I mean? Like he's running up to someone with a camera saying, "What are you doing?" And while he's doing the exact same
he
thing.
didn't upload his video.
Oh,
he
yeah.
took it for the police.
He's making the story about
Early bird
Scott
got
Hanson.
the cops. Yeah, no, that other video came out first, and then he became the guy that's like, you know what? I can't be the second one to put the video out. Now I need to pretend to be Batman over here, Watermelon
I think
Batman.
if one of my loved ones was in a crash, which this has happened to loved ones of mine before, and someone had a video of said accident and someone messing with their car after said accident, I would probably want to know what was going on. Just saying.
Look, if no one got hurt, everyone was okay, and I saw that watermelon video on my TikTok For You page, I would have liked and cheered it. Yeah, for sure. I got to be honest.
Yeah.
It's a good video.
Jeff Darlington is really inspiring.
That melon was full of glass, though. Exactly. Like, that's the thing that I don't understand, the value of that watermelon.
Wait, it
broke.
was?
Yeah, he
Can we
took
watch
Shattered
it?
sunroof.
There's a shattered sunroof.
We
And you
gotta
take
watch
it
the
out, you
video
even
again.
hear the glass crackling.
And that's the thing. I mean, this is a mess.
If I'm the
what are you
first guy,
doing?
if I'm the first guy and I approach the car and I see the watermelon, I'm just doing the zoom in and out thing on it. I'm not actually grabbing it because I'm thinking what Scott Hanson's thinking. I don't want to affect
Tampering
a
a crime
crime
scene.
scene.
Oh, melons
So
are
I'm
expensive.
gonna
now.
you gotta zoom in and out on it. I mean, it's like, what the hell is this watermelon doing here? You gotta like emphasize it.
I would like to examine for a second, though, what Stugotz has correctly identified is going on around here before we go back out to Jeremy to see if he has found a Florida Panthers fan. You just said, Billy, when I accused you of Team Tony and uniting with him on being anti-narc, this is what you did. You whispered falsehoods and then agreed with everything he said. That's exactly how you did it. You whispered your
I know my
lame
guy.
move of falsehoods and then agreed with every single word that he said about Scott Hanson as a narc and supported Tony from every angle.
Well, I'm not intentionally supporting Tony. Our view just seems to align on this situation.
I think we need to get Scott Hanson on the show. And I also think that the Miami drivers in this room are desensitized to accidents like this. And you think that this is just like, yeah, there's accidents all the time. I grab a melon from a car that's upside down. This is not normal behavior.
On Only in Date, I've seen 7 cars flipped over today in the morning.
We have to talk more about that in a second, what you've seen on Only in Dade, because there's always a car rolling on I-95 on fire. I don't understand
Car
how
fires
that
seem
car
very
fires
prevalent.
always.
I
It's
saw
like
a
20 this year,
burnt
by
out
the way.
Lamborghini yesterday, or maybe like a week ago. Woke up, rolled out of bed, Lamborghini on fire. All there's left is a tire. What's happening? What are we
Only in
doing?
Dade has a number of videos a day that make it feel like a simulation. There's always a mattress on the highway. There's always a car on fire.
Or the boat getting pulled back on the car. You know how people try to pull the boat up from the
Boat ramp, yep.
They get back.
Let's go back out to Jeremy here in our continuing quest in South Florida is he being rained on now? Where are you? Where is that? Where are you now looking for Panther fans?
Dan, we got lost. It's really easy to end up in the middle of the Everglades, and that's exactly what's happened here. I did speak to an actual Florida Panther. He was very excited about Greg Cody's new nickname of Sergei Badkwotsky.
Can we pan out a little here? Let's paint the picture a little. Let's pan out, Danny.
No, deep. I'm up to my knees in water. You could see it up to my knees in water. We're really stuck.
Okay, he is in the
deep
Everglades.
in the
He is in the Everglades.
He is in the Everglades.
Wow. I've been there.
Wait a minute. Okay,
Is that right near the Sunrise exit?
That is right.
Yeah, it is near the Sunrise exit. That's right.
Yes. This is, So when Bill Simmons asked the question, nobody knows where the Panthers play. That's where the
here.
Panthers play, right there in the Everglades. Again, though, you are no closer
We're
to
looking
any.
for Panthers fans.
Yeah,
Why are you in the Everglades?
Where are the
Well,
Panther
we're gonna
fans?
try. We're gonna try. We're gonna head to another spot in the Everglades because I think being this close to where the arena is most important. So in the rain now, we're actually gonna head over to where the airboat rides are in the Everglades and see if we can't find some Florida Panthers fans.
You
So
won't find a
we'll get
single
there for you
fan
soon.
there. Go further away from the arena, and then you have a better chance of finding a fan. I'm telling you.
No.
Next
That
report
is
from the
further
airboat.
away from the arena.
He's going to go
Okay.
try and find.
got it.
Yes, go out there. Let's show people Airboat
Yeah.
Everglades for those who do not know the marshland that the
beauty.
Panthers.
The landscape.
Sad white van
Heaven
just driving
on
by.
earth, really.
I want
beautiful.
I want to
Nob
ask.
Hill.
I want to ask all of you a question here, because I don't know the folks like Jessica and Lucy who are new to South Florida. Thank you, Jeremy. We will check back in. Not enough rain on you. I'd like you to be getting rained on more.
Flamingo for you, Dan. I'll find another flamingo.
In our region, okay, the places where giant sports things have been built to entertain the sports that are not the major ones, furthest out on the extremes of South Florida where you can get land to build giant things, furthest from us, Homestead Motor Speedway is in Homestead, where you can get a lot of land to build a thing that has a lot of space and is not in the center of things. You're going toward marshland and deeper into areas where the real estate has less value.
You're almost at the Keys.
I mean, it's far. I don't know which one's further. Billy, help me. Which one's further from where we are right now? Homestead Motor Speedway or where Jeremy is covering the Panthers? I don't know in terms of miles which one is actually further by car in traffic to get to when I say that when I say that going to a Stanley Cup game from where we presently are in traffic will take between 90 minutes and 2 hours to get to where the Stanley Cup is. And if you know anything about South Florida, Dade and Broward, those are two very different places demographically. That Dade County has all of the diversity. You'll find in Fort Lauderdale some where you find like Dillard High School and stuff, but where the Panthers play, not terribly diverse.
No.
The Panthers, Fort Lauderdale.
But people live there. Like Jeremy lives 10 minutes from there. Chris Cody lives closer there. We just don't.
Well, people live in Davie, Plantation,
and
Weston,
Homestead.
that
People
area,
live there
Parkland,
too. It's just
yeah.
far from us.
Homestead is 40 miles. Homestead Speedway is 40 miles from right here.
It's also hard to put a motor speedway in the middle of downtown. Like it takes up a lot of real estate. You need lots of acreage to put like a mile-long racetrack in the middle of a street.
Yeah.
Formula One begs to differ.
You say that, but wasn't the Grand Prix originally right here? Like,
Yeah,
wasn't
but
it
that's-
in downtown Miami in these same streets
Yeah,
right
but they
here?
closed downtown to do that. It's not an actual speedway the entire time.
That is correct.
It's just for the event.
That is right.
Also, as we're growing and branching out, like the geography of Florida was all swampland, right? It all used to look like that. Like when the Orange Bowl was built, it was built in swampland. And like we just keep going out further west and we keep going further south because that's where the available land is. But as time goes on, those will be populated areas because you'll keep building homes around there because that's where the land's available. Unless it becomes protected because of the Florida Panthers who are endangered or not. We're not sure about that, but we think they're endangered. And then the land becomes protected and you can't build houses there.
Mm-hmm. One of the best books I have read is The Swamp, about the history of Florida and how it is.
Michael Grunwald. I read that one too.
Ben Hill Griffin, Tebow.
The history of Florida suggests that it's always been a real estate con, that we've been tricking people since Rockefeller, getting them down here to build real estate, telling them it'll have value. It was never supposed to work. Let us segue, however awkwardly, from mortality into something that feels slightly better than that, which is the Panthers are 2 victories away from winning the Stanley Cup. PK Subban has been an excellent analyst over the last few years. He's a 3-time NHL All-Star, but it's been fun watching him grow as a voice, his confidence. Like, it's obvious, not that he ever lacked confidence, but it's just obvious seeing him in front of the cameras that he has grown comfortable, very comfortable in the position of being an authority and a voice on hockey. PK, thank you for joining us. Can you tell me if you could have imagined this during your playing career, the idea of an analyst role for you that would fit this well?
I don't think you ever try to look too far ahead. I think you try to stay in the moment when you're playing. But one thing that was always something that I saw follow me from team to team. I played for 3 different teams, and in every single locker room, we were always very opinionated about what we heard on the television and what people would be saying. And I think that sometimes you got to put your money where your mouth is. When you're an ex-player, you have an opportunity to have an impact. Sorry about that. To be able to talk about the game and influence the game in a different way than just on the ice, and be able to educate people and bring new people into the game. I think it's an opportunity that you can't pass up, especially for the players that truly love the game. Whatever sport you're in, if you truly love it, you want to still be attached to it in some capacity. And this allows me to not only be within the game still, but as a player, give back to the players and help educate, from a player's perspective. I think that's important as well. Journalism's a difficult job, and I have a lot of respect for people that have been doing it for a long time, but to have a perspective as someone who's more recently out of the game, I think is pretty valuable. And I hope that the players value it. All the the feedback has been positive so far, so I'll take it and run with it.
Well, you had personality as a player. You have personality as a broadcaster. Do you get frustrated the way that I do by hockey players in general who are very nice, very polite, and very careful to never say anything interesting to us?
Well, I think that the comfort is now there for players to come out of their shell. We see what the NHL is doing with this new show coming out. Obviously, that's going to highlight some of the star players in the game, and I know I'll be a part of that in a certain capacity. So we're all excited for that, and I think this is the new wave now for the NHL. The NHL's here. We see it. The numbers continue to grow. People continue to watch. It's exciting. I mean, we had DJ Khaled performing at before the game during an intermission. It's pretty special. This stuff wasn't happening when I was playing, right? And I retired only 2 years ago. So I think we're well on our way in the NHL. And the most important thing is the product on the ice. So the players know that. You got to go out and play. But I think that we have other avenues now to show players' personality. It's difficult. These guys wear helmets on the ice, you don't always get to see them. So, as far as recognizing the players, we have to find other ways to do that. And I think that, creating different avenues to promote the players and market the game is exactly what we want to do. And I think that show is going to play a big role in people getting to know our stars, outside of just like Connor McDavid being on the Stanley Cup stage and Matthew Tkachuk. They're going to be able to get inside a little bit and know what they're like personally, which I think is really important.
PK, you mentioned the ratings, and you're right. They're up, and they're up dramatically. They're up 45% year to year. What do you attribute that to?
I think it's a number of things. The product on the ice. I got to watch a lot of hockey, and I can tell you when I was playing, I didn't always want to watch. I can't take my eyes off the screen now. I'm so excited every night to watch the game. There's so many skilled players. And, without the skill, I considered myself a skilled player when I played. Grew up, I was a Montreal Canadiens fan. Obviously hometown is Toronto, so always had a special place in my heart for the Leafs. But growing up, it was all about the Detroit Red Wings and the Colorado Avalanche and, watching the way that those teams played the game. And that was skill and a ton of skill. And now that's what the game's about. You can see it all over the ice. So it takes obviously a certain level of testicular fortitude and toughness and dedication, to play this game. But, skill in the entertainment part is really, really important. And I think our game is just highly entertaining. I think it's fun to watch. If you love sports, you love to watch hockey, especially right now. It's very, very exciting. And for me to want to sit and watch hockey games every night says a lot. I've seen a lot of hockey over my lifetime, and I'm loving it right now. So I'd have to say the product on the ice and just everything. I think that Gary Bettman has done a great job. The decisions that he's made, expansion teams, all of that stuff has come. Like, look at Vegas, right? Look at what's happened in Vegas. So the game has continued to grow. And a lot of it is on the shoulders of the players, but we have to give the league credit as well. And the media, I think that there's so many different ways now with podcasts and different shows and obviously streaming and all this stuff. There's so many different ways to now see what's going on in the world of hockey. And I think all of that helps.
A critic writes in of the show, Stugotz, my favorite thing is Dan taking off his glasses to talk about a sport he knows nothing about and thinks he's making thought-provoking statements when he says, I simply didn't think they could do that. PK, did you think that Edmonton could be slowed that way by anybody the way they were in Game 2?
You know what? I think the Florida – are you talking about the Florida Panthers specifically? I'm sorry. I missed the first part of your question.
I am
asking
you whether in the last game that they played, I didn't understand the difference between Game 1 and Game 2, where all of a sudden Edmonton's getting all of the opportunities in Game 1, all sorts of dangerous, high-risk opportunities that Bobrovsky is stopping. And then Game 2 – I see the worst Edmonton team I've seen play. I didn't think that could happen where there were no chances for Edmonton. I didn't think anybody could do that to them.
I saw that coming. The Florida Panthers probably played the worst game of the playoffs in Game 1. They looked, in my opinion, tentative. They looked nervous. One thing that no one's going to talk about is 8 out of the 20 or 21 players that skated, weren't even in the finals last year. Lusterinen, who's a great young player for them, he was hurt. He didn't play last year in the finals. So they got a lot of guys that this is their first time playing in the finals. So, everybody's looking at the Florida Panthers saying, oh, they were in the finals last year. Yeah, they were, but they got a lot of players that weren't. So that, I think, showed in game one. There was a little bit of nerves. And it should be. They should be nervous. There's a really good hockey player on the other side. I don't know, best player in the world, the best player of our generation. Connor McDavid, he's a pretty good player. And, I'd be a little bit nervous, too, if I was playing against him in the finals. You're going to see his best. And Edmonton came out ready to play. I think it was a missed opportunity for Edmonton, a missed opportunity because they just ran into who I believe is the lead in the Conn Smythe Trophy conversation, and Sergei Bobrovsky was unbelievable in game one, and he stole game one. You knew that Florida was going to come out better in game two. I haven't seen them play 2 bad games in a row all season. I mean, they had a little stretch there, a little rough patch heading into the playoffs, but other than that, they've been solid all year and all postseason. So I expected them to bounce back, and they know they had to take care of business at home. Edmonton right now is one of the toughest buildings to play in the National Hockey League. It's going to be tough for game 3. So they had to get it done at home, and they came out and played better. Sam Bennett was awesome. Mikkola was great. He's been great all playoff long. And Sergei Bobrovsky shut the door when he had to. Now, the question's going to be health for Florida. Are they healthy going into game 3? But I was not surprised that Edmonton, was shut down the way that they were. This Florida Panthers team is the best defensive team in hockey, and it showed.
Are you okay with our idea to make Draisaitl sit for as long as Barkov has to sit?
Seems fair.
So I love that. I do. It's just difficult, right? Because you think about it this way. Let's just say that Draisaitl had hit a player that was on the 4th line, right? And I'm not saying this. I'm just thinking out hypothetically because we're talking as fans now. I got to take my analyst hat off for a second. Talking as fans. If Draisaitl hits, a 4th line guy like that and the elbow guy goes down, his jaw and decides to sit a game, or sit 2 games, who's not as big of an impact player, now you've got one of the best players in the series out. And, I don't know how much the NHL investigates to how hurt guys actually are. But the one thing I will say is that if a player, the number one thing I look at is the injury stuff. If a guy's injured, if you break a player's jaw, throwing an elbow, there's got to be, in my opinion, there's got to be a suspension for that. I'd be pissed if my best player broke his jaw off of their best player hitting them with an elbow and there was no supplementary discipline for it. Now, I will say this about the Draisaitl hit, and I'll even go as far to talk about the Foegele hit because I saw the replay on that as well, and I called it a knee on knee, but whether it was a knee on knee, hip on hip, quad on quad, it's reckless. I don't like it through the neutral zone. If you're going to hit somebody through the middle of the ice, it's a skill and an art to hit. If you are late, that's why we have referees to call penalties for guys that don't have the skating or the timing ability to hit in the open ice cleanly. If you catch a guy's leg, quad, or knee, it's a penalty. And if the guy's hurt and it looks reckless and it's dangerous, which that was, there could be extra supplementary discipline to it. So, I didn't like that hit. With Leon knew who he was hitting. There's no question about that. Now, did he deliberately try to elbow him in the chin? I will say no. That's when Trouba sticks his elbow out at Rodriguez, that to me is way more egregious than the hit that Leon Draisaitl put on Barkov. Now, guys, I was just as emotional as every person in the state of Florida when that hit happened and I saw the elbow to the chin because this is the best player. This is the best player right now in the playoffs who could potentially be injured, right? Who could be potentially injured and out for the series, out for a game, whatever it is. And that's as clear as day. That's an elbow. Now, here's the intent. The intent is for Leon Draisaitl to make a big hit on Barkov. And look, his feet are down. I actually said he left his feet. He didn't leave his feet as early as I thought he did. I'm emotional. I have to admit to that. I do get emotional. I'm sorry. I do. I'm a player, so I always put myself on the ice, and I have to try to temper that emotion sometimes and look at it with a different hat on. And once I watched it over and over again, I was a little bit more lenient to it. Now, everybody's going to say, wow, PK, you're only saying that because he's a star player. Well, you're damn right. There are star players. We want them on the ice. There isn't different rules for different guys, but I've seen way worse hits than that. The most important thing that I want to see is Barkov on the ice for Game 3. If he's healthy and on the ice for Game 3, I'm not going to care. So, to your point, should they both sit? I mean, if Barkov's sitting, I don't mind Leon Draisaitl sitting a game. I don't mind that at all. But, if it doesn't happen, it's not the end of the world. And I'm thinking that Barkov's going to play. I hope he plays. It'd be another conversation if he's missing a game. That's for sure. That's a huge loss. Huge loss if he has to miss a game.
Now, he is on the ice this morning for practice, so that is a good sign.
Full participant.
Good.
Now, I am wondering – go ahead.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing. For fans and everybody, we want the stars on the ice, but we want these guys playing hard. And I also don't want to take away Leon Draisaitl's right to go out there and make a big hit and play hard like that. So, I have to temper my emotions, but there was no question that was an elbow. That was an elbow.
Could Paul Maurice, and this was my quibble that we talked earlier. I don't want to criticize Paul Maurice. I love Paul Ball. No one was supporting that guy before I was down here.
Mm-hmm. You
but
were first.
I can't criticize. I'm afraid to criticize him, so I'm just putting a lot of caveats at the front of it.
Yeah.
But he could have been a little more aggressive in that press conference, calling for a suspension of Draisaitl. No.
Paul Maurice handles the media perfectly. I liked exactly what he said. He's so smart, and no, he's right to do that because. What I love about Paul Maurice is he not only loves his players, I really believe he loves the other team players as well. And he looks at all the players the same. He's been around so long.
That's not true.
I don't like that.
That's not true.
I don't want him like
I don't like that.
No.
I want my coach to hate the other players.
You can't. Come on.
Come on. Like the other player.
Wish diarrhea on them. Yeah.
Guys, I don't think Paul Maurice is going out there wanting to see players suspended and missing an opportunity of a lifetime to play in the Stanley Cup final unless it's truly deserving. And he's not going to lobby for that unless it's 150% deserving.
If I go up to – you're telling me if I go up to Maurice tonight and just say, hey, Genie, McDavid suspended. He's just suspended. That he's going to say no? No, thank you. I don't want him suspended?
No, that's not what I'm saying. Of course. Listen, of course, it's winning. But he's not going to lobby for a player to get suspended. He's going to let the NHL do their job. And I thought the way he handled it was great because he put a spotlight on it without having to be front and center. He let everybody else do the math on what they saw. He saw the clip. All you got to do is watch the video clip to see the elbow, right? To see it's right to the chin of the game's best player right now, and that's Barkov. He's been the best player in the playoffs right now, right? Who's going to argue that? On both sides of the puck. He's Florida's most valuable player outside of Bobrovsky, and he took an elbow straight from Leon Draisaitl to the chin. So, at the end of the day, this is playoff hockey. We've seen stuff happen. The most important thing is that Barkov is not hurt. So I'm happy to hear that he was on the ice. I figured that he would make it back. And Luostarinen, too. I was more scared about that hit, to be honest, than the Barkov hit. The Luostarinen one really had me going in the game, and I'm happy that he came back shortly after.
We're out of time, unfortunately. Thank you for joining us after the 2,500-mile flight. I do have one follow-up, though. You mentioned a couple of times how emotional you are and were as a player. What do you regard as the most unreasonably emotional you ever were as a player? Is there one thing that stands out to you as like, I really need to get my emotions in check? That was too far.
Yeah, yes, definitely. It was actually towards the end of my career when I was playing in New Jersey. I think it might have been in my second or maybe even my last year playing. And a bunch of my close friends and people in my inner circle gave me a bunch of crap for it. I don't know if I could swear. I would have said something else. But we were playing the Islanders, and it was in an overtime. and I had scored in overtime, big celebration, and it was a big turning point for our team. We were trying to get the ball rolling, and it was called back on like an offside, and I sort of sounded off on social media after. I chirped the league. I said this league, because I thought back to the NHL finals when the offside was called in the Stanley Cup final, and I was just being a big baby. Really, I was just being a big baby, and I was just upset. I wanted to win the game. I wanted our team to have that game, and I went on social media and I said something about the league, and I that was the only time I ever regretted opening my mouth. That's when the emotions had boiled over for me, and deservingly so. I think everybody understands New Jersey. Those were tough 3 years playing on a team that's at the bottom of the league. I'm used to being in the playoffs every year and going on long playoff runs. So that would have been the time where I lost it. And I was upset about it because I think there's a responsibility that comes when you're a player that's recognized in a professional sports league to understand that it's our job to shine the shield. The shield gives us a lot. So I try to keep my emotions in check, but it's an emotional game. So I wouldn't be me without the emotional part. It's just about finding balance. So I remember that, though. I said some stuff on Twitter maybe or Instagram, and wasn't the right way to handle it. So.
Yes or no answer will get you out of here. Do you agree with Greg Cody when he says Connor McDavid needs to win a Stanley Cup to validate his greatness?
I feel differently about that. I think that when people think, I know you want a yes or no answer, but it's not a yes or no answer.
You can't do it. You can't do it. No.
Yes or no.
Look,
I stated it on the front end.
I don't want to enrage the big baby, but he did say yes or no.
So
he did say yes or no.
I'm gonna say no because what he does, to me is so special. He is the greatest engineered player to ever play the game. Eras are different. There's no question. There'll never be a Wayne Gretzky. Another Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky is the great one. He is the greatest of all time.
Well said.
But for this generation, Connor McDavid is that guy. And the only reason why we say winning is because players have to have something to play for. This is not a sport where the culture accepts you coming in, taking your paycheck and walking out the door. Winning has to matter. And people can tell when you play the game and want to win and when you don't care about winning. You know the way hockey is, man. There's no prima donnas in this sport. So winning has to matter. But, if I'm talking about the sport itself, there's nobody even close to this guy. We've never seen anybody like this guy. He's worth the price of admission to go and play. I've watched him his whole career, played with my brother growing up. Connor McDavid is the real deal. Anybody who says any different has never played against him. And no offense to Greg Cote, never played against Connor McDavid. And and that's not taking anything away from him. But trust me, if he would play against them, he'd have a completely different opinion.
You're right. You're right.
Would.
No, you're absolutely right.
Thank you for
Bishop to Rook 9 there. You got us.
Yeah.
Thank you for what?
Thank you for creating the visual of my dad playing hockey against Connor McDavid.
Thank you, PK.
He thinks he can, though.
We appreciate it, PK. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, guys. Thank you.
I have two things here that I believe to be shocking. I believe I have a shocking stat of the day, and I believe I have shocking Lucy information. Which would you like, Stugotz?
Shocking Lucy information.
How exhausting does all of the Caitlin Clark conversation have to be when Lucy Rodin, who has been famously, publicly pro-Caitlin Clark before it was popular, before it was trendy, as our resident Iowa correspondent, for her this fast into Caitlin Clark's career, I think we're talking about 10 games, for her to be totally tired of talking about Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin is the only person having any normal conversation about Caitlin. I never thought that I would wake up and not want to hear people talk about her. Every time I open up my phone, it's this cesspool of just gross stuff. Nikki Haley, shut up. Don't talk about Caitlin. She's mine, not yours.
She's reached rage levels, and we're just – how many games are we into the experiment? Is it 8, 9, 10, 11?
No, they've played like 600 games so far. They've played more games than anybody else by like 10 miles.
I think they're 3-9. There's probably another one in there somewhere. It's too many games.
That was fast, though. It was fast for you to get to already tired about the Discord. We were talking earlier in the week about the idea that she's somehow controversial, even though she's done nothing controversial, because she's just, I think Jessica said, she's just an avatar for whatever it is you want to talk about.
It's not her fault. It's everyone else's fault. I just didn't expect everyone to be that stupid. I thought they'd be stupid, but not that dumb. And they're just... She doesn't say anything. She doesn't do anything. She goes out, she plays basketball, she's normal. Like, even the whole, like, Olympic conversation, she wasn't mad. She wasn't upset. Then everybody else just gets so... She doesn't need you to do that. She's cool. She's good. She makes a lot of money. She's fine. Leave her alone. Just leave her alone. Be normal. Just somebody be normal for 5 seconds.
Yeah, no one can be normal. To Lucy's point, I was listening to the Athletic Women's Basketball podcast yesterday, and Ben Pickman was saying that USA Basketball stuck to basketball, and all Caitlin Clark's been saying all season was like she wants to tune everything out and just stick to basketball. And they did that, and everyone's still really mad. And it's very just, why can't we just be normal?
What is generally happening with the coddling, though? Like the idea that people are rushing over to not just have an opinion, but to also protect her from expectations that come with being a prodigy?
It's all pretty much just like it boils down to like men being like women need to be protected, even though men are the ones who do all the bad stuff to women. It's pretty much all of them. they're the ones that we need to be protected from, but yet they're saying they need to protect us. Caitlin doesn't need to be coddled, and it's like I've followed Caitlin since she was in high school. That girl is a killer. She doesn't need to be coddled. Sometimes I think, hey, maybe the people around her need to be coddled because look. My girl's fiery. She doesn't need you, Nikki Haley.
Sounds like you're talking about it.
Right.
But she's tired of talking about it.
I'm tired of listening to everyone else talk about it.
Right.
I'm tired of listening to I don't
Lucy's
care what they have
allowed
to
to
say.
talk about it.
I've followed Caitlin
She's
since high
normal.
school makes Caitlin sound less like a killer and you sound more like a killer.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't know what to respond to that.
That's true.
Yeah.
He's boxed you in. I
Damn,
hate it
you
when he
got
does
me.
that.
Well
Yeah,
done,
he's a good hater sometimes on that. Yeah. I've got. I still want to get to this stat because I do believe that all of you will be surprised by this because I didn't believe it when I saw it, and I had to double check it because I think of the Los Angeles Lakers as something historically that they have not in any way been recently. It came up in the weird story of Dan Hurley, who will be on with us tomorrow, incidentally, so we will get to ask him some of these questions about something that is confusing, and there's an element of the story that I think people listening to this will be interested in because they're interested in the insider stuff, and Woj and Shams are going at it in a way that's public and interesting to me. But we were talking about the Laker job, and Jessica mentioned, is it that good of a job? Because it's always been a good job, but they've got now at the center of everything they're doing the oldest player in the league and the stat I'm about to read.
Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is your start of the day. Start of the day, start of the day, it is the start of the day.
Before I give you the stat of the day, Stugotz, this from Hembo, because it will help you understand a little better the passing of Jerry West, how it is and why it is he was such a great executive. Hembo writes, on July 11th, 1996, Jerry West traded Vlade Divac for Kobe Bryant. 7 days later, Jerry West signed Shaq as a free agent. It is the greatest week any sports executive has ever had. That's what Jerry West did.
I mean, Riley got LeBron and Bosch.
Same day.
And Wade.
Discounted.
Yes, and discounted. Same day. So perhaps not the greatest week an executive has ever had. But because Jerry West did that and because the Lakers have been so relevant for so long, this is the stat of the day that surprised me. In the last 12 seasons, the Lakers have been higher than a 7 seed once. 12 seasons, the Lakers have been higher than a 7 seed one time. I had to go look it up because I'm like, that can't be right. They've always been relevant. But Kobe played at the end for some really bad teams. They've always had stars, but the last 12 years of Lakers as a mom and pop business has been an illusion. Like, it's been an optical illusion. It's all of their history is the way that you remember them. And the fact that they keep putting a star in front of it makes it seem like they've been better than they have been the last 12 years.
That one title in the bubble covers a lot of stuff up, a lot of losing up. They've also run through 6 or 7 head coaches in the last 12 years. I mean, it's crazy.
And so to Jessica's point, when Hurley comes up for that job and it feels like the whole thing seems fishy and a negotiating ploy, and it's Hurley taking advantage of the situation because he can, because he's a basketball royalty name. The Hurley family is known as basketball. And so if the Laker job comes open, yeah, sure, why not interview it, but not with the intention of taking it. And not because it's that good a job with the oldest player in the league in control of everything.
Oh, it's my girl. Okay. Jessica, can I tell you, I spent like 3 days after Formula One going, was I too familiar? I called her Jess right away as if we were like old homies from college. Did I just have kept calling her Jessica? I really spent like an absurd amount of time tormenting myself over whether I should have called you Jess.
No, I go by both, but I wore my Hannah Hidalgo shirt today for you, but it's too cold to take off my sweatshirt, so you can't see it.
It's underneath. That's all that matters. It's there.
Exactly.
Elle, we are so happy to see you. I don't mean to sound too parental here in feeling proud of you that you can display the full range of your personality in a way that the prompter doesn't allow, but it's nice to see you again, and thank you for making the time for us.
Dan, are you joking? I squealed at the call. Thank you. Hi, Stugotz.
Hello,
Hi,
Elle.
Dan. Hi, everybody. Hey, I see Lucy. Hey, what's up, Greg? Okay, I kind of can't see who's in the very back.
It's Billy, Tony, and Greg. That's fine. That's fine. You did fine. Elle, I should tell the people, she's been a mainstay on SportsCenter here close to a decade, and obviously excellent on WNBA Countdown on ABC. And it's a show and looks and acts like none I've ever seen, Elle. I think it's fair to say that, right? There's never been the space for this kind of chemistry, this kind of show at ESPN, correct?
Yeah. No, I mean, I would agree. I like, it always feels weird being that person that's like, yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think that, for its good and its bad, there is an opportunity there, or at the very least that places let me sort of be who I am, wherever I am. So that's been cool.
Can you take us through, and I want to cede the floor to you here, just the last 10 days, have been interesting to you. Why and how?
They've been exhausting. I have used the phrase from the Green Mile from our beloved, what was his name? John Coffey. I was tired, boss. I have used that phrase more in the last 10 days than maybe ever. Like, I'm really exhausted. I certainly know that social media is not a place to have nuanced conversations. But if I'm being honest, you guys, I think I'm a little disappointed in myself. I think I naively thought, with all of the momentum from the college space, with these amazing numbers, with these ratings, with just all the good feels, with the hope that it was going to translate to the W, because it just hasn't for whatever reason, for a bevy of reasons. And I think we know what some of those are. that translation's never been there, that you can love these college players and then you can watch them level up at the professional level. And I think I just sort of naively thought like all this attention that Caitlin is going to bring, like is going to shine a spotlight on everyone else. And it's just going to grow and it's going to be so great. And everyone's going to get to see how awesome the W is. And it has become, like everything else in this country, a total complete culture war where everyone that's new to the party is showing up with pitchforks. And that doesn't sound like a fun party that I would want to be at. So, yeah, it's been a little bit of coming to terms with the fact that I very naively thought it would look a lot different.
Elle, that's crazy to me that you and Lucy, 12 games into the Caitlin experience, are already, I'm tired, boss. Like, that's crazy. How can that be?
Yeah, I know. And I know Lucy, being a big Caitlin Clark fan. I mean, I watch all your stuff, Lucy. I love it. And I think I'm frustrated for many reasons. I do think, and I've asked, because here's the thing, to address some people on social media that have been like, don't you scold us. Like, this is your first, foray into the W as well. You are 100% right. I've been in the college space for 3 years. I have been in this W space for just this season, a handful of weeks, if you will. And a lot of that is because of the growth that Caitlin Clark brought and the idea that they wanted to carry some of the momentum that me and Andrea Carter and Chinea Gwumike had from the women's tournament. But I, unlike some new people in this space, are asking a lot of questions, and I'm trying to do a lot of listening, and I'm doing a lot of research. And maybe that's because that's my job by nature. But when I ask people that are in this space, like, why are we here? What happened? Like, how did we go from like Caitlin Clark is going to help level up this whole league to now we have othered her in a way that it is either you are showing complete fealty to Caitlin Clark or you're a jealous, bitter hater. And there's no in between. It's like you are either saying that she should be given everything that she wants because she's been transformative, or you hate her and you're a racist, which I've been called numerous times this week as well. So there's no in between. And it's frustrating because everyone has taken to their respective sides and like there really is no room to listen. Or I didn't think that the Olympic thing would be that talked about naively. And sure enough, like we're still here, 4, 5, 6 days later talking about it too.
Isn't it possible that it's just because men want to be a part of the conversation now and it's easy to do all-star snubs and Caitlin as an entry point and everyone can look at what's happening and say, I liked it better before the men got here?
Yes. All my girl group chats just look like, what is wrong with the men? What has happened to the men? They're losing it. Yes. And I think that's the frustrating part is that I'm not one of those people that's like, you're new, you should have nothing to say. But the problem is that these new people don't really have anything else to talk about. They're not particularly researched. They're not watching these games. They're certainly not texting sort of the experts or the analysts that they have at their disposal to ask them what are storylines that are worth selling. And so they keep going to the same bag of tricks. She's being targeted. She's, the best thing to ever happen to these women. And she's being snubbed. It's just like the same rehashed, and it doesn't matter how measured the conversation is around it. I mean, actually, Dan, I was really excited that when this thing leaked last Saturday, that we were going to get to do a WNBA countdown, because again, naively, I was like, Andrea Carter and Chinea Gwumike should be the first voices on this. Like before the men get it, let's let these two very pragmatic, measured, researched, incredible people give their thoughts on why potentially she was left off the roster, which is different than being snubbed. She was left off. She was not snubbed. And it still hasn't mattered because, it's still the people with the biggest platforms are the ones who, want to be able to throw Caitlin Clark in the A block, but in a way that they think is digestible to their fans, which is simply going to the one thing that they know about, which is, besmirching and denigrating an entire group of women, thinking that you're doing it in a way that's like promoting Caitlin Clark, which is beyond strange to me too.
I have a question looking ahead to the next Olympics in 2028, which will be here in the United States. There's going to be even more of an influx of talent coming out of college next year and in the next 3 years with Paige Beckers, Juju Watkins, Hannah Hidalgo. Plus, you'll have rookies this year like Angel Reese that may be eligible to play in the next one. Will this be the deepest pool of talent in USA basketball that we've ever seen in 2028 trying to make that roster?
Sure. I mean, listen, it stands to reason that like Diana Taurasi's not going to be on the roster at 46 years old. Who knows? She could surprise me. Certainly she's doing things that we haven't seen any 42-year-old do in basketball before, but absolutely. I think The thing that's frustrating to me about this Olympic conversation, Jess, we're friends. I'm going with Jess, is that people just want everything handed to Caitlin, and Caitlin doesn't want that either. Come on, man. She didn't become the greatest college basketball player of all time by wanting anything handled to her, the greatest shooter by wanting people to not defend her or face guard her. And so, yeah, it's going to be a really tough decision to make for the Olympics. I think it was a really tough decision to make to leave Arike Ogunbowale off. And if you talk to the analysts, part of the reason anyway, is because Arike is a very unique and special talent, much like Caitlin Clark. And she's not exactly a plug into the system and go type of player. You have to little bit build around her to play to her strengths, which she has many, but you have to sort of build a team and a strategy around that one player, which is not really ideal for an Olympic roster. So yeah, it's going to be incredible. I mean, and I love that you mentioned Paige Beckers, we're talking about her coming into the league next year. At some point, Juju coming into the league. At some point, Hannah Hidalgo, who I know is buried under your sweatshirt in there, Jess. And so it's going to be an incredibly still difficult decision because, again, you guys, all of the best basketball players in the world reside in America. So you're talking about picking 12 of the best in the world, and it will still be a tough decision, and there will still be people who are upset and will be snubbed. But in this particular instance, it was just not Caitlin Clark.
There is another rookie that we haven't been talking about a lot, Alyssa Peely. She had this incredible half-court shot. I'm not sure if you saw it. We're going to play the video right now.
It's B-roll, so talk over it.
Okay, well, here it is. One-handed, just launches the ball from half court and makes the shot. One of the most incredibly athletic things I have ever seen. I'm truly, what do you even say?
She threw it like a baseball.
I was going to say, that's why I love it, Dan, is because it actually looked like incredibly sort of unathletic. It looks like she's like, whatever. She sort of shot put it, and that's how far it went because Alyssa Peely has grown woman strength. That is not surprising at all.
Can you help us with the storylines? If people need to be talking about the basketball this Saturday, you have Saturday and Sunday games. You got Aces hosting the Liberty, and you got Brittany Griner and the Mercury hosting the Storm. When you talk about storylines that people should be paying attention to, instead of Caitlin Clark talk all the time, what should they be paying attention to?
Yeah, and let me be clear, come for the Caitlin Clark and stay for the other storylines, right? There is no such thing as growing the space if you still only watch one particular player. That doesn't grow really anything. It helps just the Fevers numbers. So this weekend alone, I mean, you're going to have an Aces team that looked like they were streaking towards the third straight championship. They've taken a little bit of a hit right now, but they still don't have Chelsea Gray, one of the best point guards in the entire world right now, at their disposal. So it looks like there's a little bit of blood in the water, but Asia Wilson is having a 2001 Shaq year, right? You guys know what that means. She is dominating and is just must-see TV on every single level. The Liberty look like a team that is finally sort of figuring some things out. They just took down the Connecticut Sun. The Sun is the perennial. You guys, we always want a good underdog type of story. That's the Sun, man. They are always the bridesmaid. They are never the bride. They've been to more finals and semis appearances than any other team without an actual championship in W history. And they look fantastic despite just losing to the Liberty. They turned around and beat up on the Fever. Nafisha Collier has been stupid for Minnesota. I don't think anyone was talking about the Lynx when we were coming in. Now they're the second, third best team in the league right now. And you talk about the Seattle Storm, right? We thought this could be a super team with Nneka Ogwumike, with Skylar Diggins-Smith. They started out the season not playing particularly well. They've won 7 of their last 8, and they are absolutely balling. So there's so many. And the Mercury, Diana Taurasi's 42 years old, wanted to make this Olympic team, is shooting better from long distance than really anybody else in the league. And my girl Kalia Copper is absolutely on one. Makes her first Olympic team because she leads the league in scoring. She's been so fun to watch. Brittany Griner shaking off the rust. She just put up a 24-point effort. There is storylines galore in particular this week, and I hope that you guys will be watching on ABC. The best teams are being featured.
Before we let you go, in honor of Chris Whittingham using the fighting words, listen, pal, we have a top 5 list for Elle of most threatening things said by the white man. Number 5, or we have OLI here, Stugotz?
Just a straight 5, Dano.
Okay, number 5.
Yeah. Hold your horses, pal.
Okay, number 4.
You've got another thing coming.
Thing or think? Number 3.
2 hits. Me hitting you, you hitting the floor.
Number 2.
I'm going to clean your clock.
And number 1.
Newsflash.
You gotta add a buddy at the end of that. It's newsflash, buddy. That's what really stings. That's what makes it a fighting word is the buddy.
The shipping container hated your list.
I feel like there's more threatening things, but
Hold your horses is strong.
It's my list, and it's white men.
No, are you talking to me?
Are you talking to me?
I'm gonna turn this car around.
that's what I was clock.
For a kid, though.
I'm gonna kidnap you,
It's
put you in
still
a
funny.
cage in my
funny.
my garage. Your family's not gonna hear from you for 6 months.
Whoa,
It's always white people
that
that do that.
escalated. Elle, thank you for being on with us. Again, I will tell the folks, WNBA Countdown on ABC. She is doing a spectacular job with it. It's nice seeing you again.
Thank you. Can I throw one in for Stugotz that
Yeah.
no white person would ever say, but you would be the first, and it would make a lot of sense? You finna get your wig split. So if you could just say that, I
That was
promise
all a lie
you
for
they'll
me. Yeah.
This is the Dan Le Batard Show with the Stugotz podcast.